Okay, I thought I'd just do a quick book review, partly to generate a bit of material, but also to prove I have a face and to actually exist. The book here is called Clone Brews. Apparently it's recipes for 200 commercial beers. I was given this as a gift by a friend as a birthday present. So I just thought I'd flick through it and sort of show you what the content is and how it's laid out, and hopefully that'll be useful for anyone who's interested in purchasing it. Just starting with the table of contents here. It sort of basically has each beer listed under its style headings, as you'd sort of expect. So we're sort of ranging from, say, light lager through IPA, strong ale, and some esoteric beers, which I guess don't fit into any category. According to this book, cloning beer is much more fun than cloning sheep, and a lot easier. Considering how they've laid out this book, that's somewhat arguable. So the sort of start of it's got a bit of just general information telling you how to approach cloning beers, some rather confusing calculations which don't appear to be focusing very well on how to calculate your IBUs and stuff. So I mean, a lot of this stuff probably isn't that useful, because you would typically just jump online and use an online calculator. Probably not going to hold up this colour chart and try and work out how many SRM your beer is. So looking at a recipe and how it's laid out, this is just an example I've picked at random. In this case it's Cooper's Sparkling Ale, which will be familiar to most Aussies and New Zealanders, I imagine. So it gives you the country of origin. Cooper's Sparkling Ale was obviously the commercial brew which the Clone Brew is based off. Below that it gives you a bit of a preamble about the brewery, maybe some history about the beer. Then it has brewer's specs, which is your basic specs for your beer, such as your IBU and ABV and your yield. In this case it's based on a 5-gallon batch size, which is, I think, all the brews are. They also provide some serving notes, which tells you what temperature the beer is best served at and in what vessel, and sort of gives you an idea of the maturation time and when it'll be at its peak. It also provides some food pairing information. So in this case they're recommending an Aussie burger. If we move on to the other side, this is sort of where things get a little bit confusing for me. They've sort of tried to follow, I guess, more like a cookbook style, which isn't so much how you typically see recipes laid out, and they're sort of favouring extract brewers over all grain brewers. So the recipes are set up for extract brewers or partial mash brewing as well, because it does have some grains to steep. But if you're an all grain brewer, you sort of need to come down the bottom here and you look at the all grain method. And so in this case it tells you to mash some pale malt with the specialty grains, but it doesn't tell you what they are. And so you need to go up here, and so there's some crystal malt and some Belgian aromatic, which is listed under steep. And then you sort of need to come down here and sort of ignore those ingredients, but you want to pick up those hops from there. And then you go, what do I do next? Okay, I've got to boil that for 45 minutes. Then I add this, and then I've got to boil this for 12 minutes. Then I've got to add this. Boil for 3 minutes. Then I've got to remove the pot from the stove and cool for 15 minutes. And it gives you some yeast options there. I think just the way this is laid out, I mean, it just could be a lot simpler, and I just certainly find it a little bit confusing. Another critique, sort of, which mainly affects, say, your all-grain brewers, when it comes to your hop additions, is the introduction of this unit HBU, which I think stands for Home Bittering Units, which I have not come across before, am not familiar with. I don't know how common that is. And so say for this recipe it's saying add 7 HBU, which happens to be 30% less than the extract recipe of the bittering hops. I mean, so to achieve that, you've sort of got to come up here and work out what the weight is, and then subtract 30%, and go from there, when they could have easily given you a weight here, which would have made things a lot simpler. Just quickly looking at the appendix here, they provided some beer style guidelines, which are based on your BJCP styles. So yeah, it's pretty simple, sort of what you'd expect, just each of the beer styles and then sort of their OGFG, ABV, bitterness and colour. Appendix 2 provides some information about hops, so it just has a list of hops and where they're from, also their typical use, their alpha acid rating, and also some hop substitutes if you're wanting to find a hop that has similar characteristics. Appendix 3 provides information on your grains and other fermentables that you might want to add. So it's giving you some colour, some gravity, so if you've got 1 pound mashed into 1 gallon, what the gravity will be, sort of some characteristics and the beer styles that they're usually used in. The information contained in these appendices is sort of the stuff that you would I guess find online quite easily and probably in greater detail. So I mean, it's a handy quick reference, and I guess, you know, if you're starting out, it might be good to familiarise yourself and have all the information in one place. But yeah, I mean, personally I'd jump online and sort of find all this out and find out exactly the information you were looking for. Okay, just to conclude, this book is kind of a cool idea, but maybe the way they've done it isn't the most straightforward or sort of easy to understand way. I mean, I think the most useful thing it provides is just, you know, you can look up a beer style and find a recipe and then sort of look at your typical grain bill and maybe some of the hops you would typically use. And so, yeah, that's probably where it has its greatest benefit.